First off, I want to thank the brave men and women who work behind the wall. I want to thank them on a national level because their job goes unrecognized.
How do they try to turn a guard?
Well, correctional officer. Sorry, I apologize. But correctional officer.
How are you guys doing today? It's Anthony Gangi. Welcome to another episode of Tier Talk. Guys, this is a request. It's coming from people that are interested in entering the profession of corrections. And what they want to know is, Gangi, you talk a lot about the good about entering corrections. Give us some tough things about being a correctional officer. So in all fairness, and again, this goes out to our newbies, me and Luis Soto are going to talk about some of the tough things about, going into this profession and, how maybe your life may have to change a little bit. And it's true. Soto, what's going on, man? How's everything?
Hey, how we doing, Tony? I mean, it's just a great topic again, and we're trying to enlighten those individuals that may think of coming into this profession. So I'm glad to get into this discussion today.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great dialogue. Now, guys, if you happen to show Tier Talks to you, brave men and women that work in corrections, so please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. Bell's going to notify you every time I post a video. We're going to go to our sponsor, and when we come back, we're going to talk about, the tough things that you're going to have to get used to when entering this profession of corrections. Stand by.
I wanted to attend a university that had an intelligence program. I wanted to look at problems different. I wanted to increase my critical thinking abilities. AMU offered those avenues to expand. Obtaining your degree as an adult, you're actually paying yourself and investing in yourself. You can't put a dollar on it. It's priceless. It's something that can never be taken away from you.
American Military University. Learn from the leader.
All right, Soto. So they are right. The person that requested this, I kind of look back and, yeah, maybe I don't kind of spell out some of the tough things. So maybe it's good that we have this dialogue. I mean, I do have a lot of people enter this profession that are happy. They're ready because we've instilled in them a belief about this profession, a purpose. But now we got to tell them that, yeah, sometimes all roads aren't that easy. So now we're going to go ahead and maybe talk about some of the tough things when entering this field. So right off the bat, Soto, and I'll have you go first. You know for a fact life's going to change when you enter this profession, right? There's a commitment, correct?
Yeah, you have to, it's just kind of strange how you go from being a civilian to being a corrections officer, detention officer, whatever the title may be. And your life definitely, after you get over the congratulations, hey, you got a great job. Hey, the family's proud of you. Once that's all over, you kind of fall into the reality that, wait a minute, now I'm into this new family, this new correctional setting that I have to get accustomed to. And, you can lose out on some of your closest friends sometimes, you know what I mean? Because you have to make sure that, you're professional at all times, that your ties with the community are always good, that you're presenting that, that aura that you are a professional, that you are a person that's entrusted with the legal aspects of carrying out, what the public wants you to do, which is your profession as a correctional officer.
Right. And guys, life's going to be very inconsistent and unpredictable. I mean, it's as a correctional officer, you are in an essential role. So it's hard to make plans. At any time you could get mandated. You have a lot of facilities right now that are understaffed. So unfortunately, those extra hours, they have to be covered. So you get a lot of officers that have to step up and, they're saying goodbye to weekends. They're saying goodbye to birthday parties. They're saying goodbye to pretty much all family holidays and events. And that to me is something you never get used to. But unfortunately, it is part of this job because, again, like Soto said, we're in a position to protect and serve the public. It's an essential role and the demand is there, right? And you have to answer that demand as a civil servant.
Yeah, it's very tough to start off. Most places use seniority in order to get better days off or better shifts. We're a 24-hour operation, so you're going to end up more than likely maybe on the second shift, which is your midday to midnight, somewhere around there. Or after you have maybe a year or so in, they throw you right onto the third shift, where now you're working overnights, and that takes a toll on your body as well. You're used to being up during the day and sleeping at night. Now your whole system is thrown off, as well as your time spent with family, you know what I mean? Because now you are working while they're sleeping. And then when you get home, you have to get your rest, right? In order for them, to go about their business and their daily tasks. So it's tough. It's tough, man.
And by the way, I know family always comes first because that's why we do this job. We do it for family to give them hopefully a future. But having said that, there is a loyalty that you owe to the agency. When you take that sworn oath, which again is going to have you stepping up at, maybe doing 16-hour shifts 2 to 3 days in a row, which is still unfair. Don't get me wrong. But again, we have facilities that are understaffed. So for those that especially, down south, they're really hit with understaffed facilities. So, I mean, when you jump into this profession, you're taking on a whole another level of commitment. I mean, these officers right now are working, probably 80 hours a week, double shifts back to back to back. One of the other things I also want to mention that I find can get to you a little bit is how you start to see the world. The world, it's funny because when I'm sitting with my family, I see people differently, and it's hard for me to express why, because most of it is experience and my gut, which is based on my experience. So sometimes I may not be able to say why I feel a certain way, but it's also easy to be seen on my face. So my family's like, what's going on? Why don't you want, the kids taking pictures with Santa Claus today? Or whatever the case may be, but you start to see the world in a very unique way where everybody tends to look for the good. You're that, you're the person looking for the wolf, looking for the bad. And that's what you do because you're on that universal precaution mode, that the need to protect, and that's very hard to turn off. I mean, do you agree, Soto, that how we view the world in this profession tends to be a little bit different?
Yeah, it's only human nature. We're a little skewed because of what you're going to receive as a new officer, all the training that you're going to be asked to go through. It's going to put you in that mode where, you're looking out for the inmate population, knowing that you're new to take advantage of you. I remember a story when I first started. It took me a while to understand, and looking in a day room setting, that these guys are playing cards with, an enormous amount of cards. A deck is usually normally 52 cards unless you're playing some other game, but they were playing with some decks that were marked and everything, and I didn't know what was going on. So finally I had the courage enough to walk up to the table and say, hey, what kind of game is this? Because I don't understand it. They were gambling right in front of my face. You know what I mean? I didn't even know it. So you learn, and those experiences kind of, they warp your mind in a way. So now when you're outside, you're looking at people like you said, through a different set of eyes. I'm looking at what's wrong with this person. Is this person trying to get over on me, or whatever the case may be, because that's what you're living day in and day out. So yeah, you might have a little bit of a warped mindset sometimes that family may not understand, and you might have to explain it to them.
And just real quick, and I'm sure Soto can comment on this, our sense of humor becomes very dark.
Oh, absolutely. We make fun of stuff that, normal people would kind of cringe at, you know what I mean? So be careful on that. If you make a Thanksgiving dinner, and we have to make a comment on something or other, it might be a little warped again.
Another thing, and you try not to do it, guys. I mean, by the way, some of the things that we're telling you that are tough, some things can be maintained. So you could also do your best to avoid falling into these areas. And one thing is how you deal with death. In corrections, you're going to see a lot of death. I mean, whether it's an inmate taking their own lives, maybe a murder, whatever it is. I mean, you're going to be exposed to a lot of acts of violence or, again, suicide, and some inmates are going to be successful. But how you view it, because I found myself at one point where my nephew had died, I felt totally cold to it. And why I felt cold to it was because I've seen it so many times where I worked that I didn't realize that I've turned myself completely off to where it warrants emotion, which is with my family. So, I think one of the things is that you have to be very careful in how you deal with the abnormal, because even though in our world, maybe it is normal, it's still abnormal. I mean, would you agree with that, Soto?
No, you're absolutely right. And, you hear these things that sometimes people tell you, leave home at home and leave work at work. turn on, turn off. And it's kind of hard to do that, because you're becoming that. That's your life. It's becoming your life, that being a correction officer just gets ingrained into you. And, it's tough because your feelings get a little skewed as well. And like you said, you deal with death a lot, and, it could be suicide. It could be a natural death because people are there so long that they naturally, become ill and die. Overdose. I've seen it over and over many times. And then when it happens to you in your personal life, you can be kind of like cold about it. Like you said, it could be something that, you're getting used to, you're getting kind of desensitized to. It's kind of crazy, but it's things that you have to look out for. There are services at work, at your institution, that help, with how we cope with things. And there's many things that you can do in order to help you along with those things.
I think also related to how we see the world, we also tend to have heightened vigilance. I mean, when you're working in a prison at all times, you have to maintain vigilance at the highest level. And I don't think that's so easily turned off, because I think that what happens here is that sometimes we're afraid that if we turn it off or allow it to slowly, dim, we can't get up to that level again. So I think a lot of us, and we don't mean to do it, is that we're in the outside world the same way we're in that inside world with that same level of vigilance. And it really does. One, it gets extremely exhausting, because, I mean, it's this vigilance that you have to maintain. I mean, not just at work, but you take it with you at home. But second thing, it really does add to how you see things, because most of the time we act on this assumption when we could be way off. I mean, there could be times where we're just yelling at somebody because we feel something, but technically it's not the individual, it's more us. But that heightened vigilance, would you agree, Soto, does take a weight on you?
Yeah, it takes a toll. And, you tend to treat your family members and friends sometimes with more a direct approach. We're used to being at work and telling inmates what to do and when to do it and how to do it, that it kind of correlates and transfers right into our personal lives sometimes. And we're dealing with friends. I've gotten friends telling me, listen, man, you're my boss at work, but you're not my boss out here. You may boss people around at work or inmates at work, but I'm your friend or I'm your family member. You don't get to do that at home. So sometimes, it tends to transfer itself to our personal lives.
I think something else people may not be ready for is the paramilitary structure too. Like, you got to do the job, and really there's no chance to kind of question back. We expect, especially if it's ethical orders, obviously, that level of obedience. So how do you feel about those that may not be, have ever been into a paramilitary structure, now entering the paramilitary structure?
So, it's kind of funny because now in the private sector, people are helping you with leadership skills and how to manage people. And they ask you to get them involved in decision making and stuff like that. And it's great when you're doing that in the private sector. But when we're talking about public and law enforcement, you don't get that all the time. You don't get the time. I mean, it may be an emergency. It may be something that needs to happen now, and you're giving directives, and you don't have time for people to question you or to give them a reason as to why we're doing this. And we know that that's the big question, right? These kids nowadays, or young people nowadays, they want to know, why do I have to do this? Why me? Why this? And sometimes with a paramilitary structure, there's no questioning. We're just giving you an order, go do your assignment. And I need it done quickly and expeditiously, because it could be a danger to everyone else.
Right. And also, when you're working in corrections, you're definitely not looking to be recognized, because recognition is far and few between. I mean, technically, we're fighting for that recognition. So what's good about it is the people that are in this profession, they should be doing it for the right reasons. Because, again, if you're looking for that moment to be a star, most likely the public, they don't understand what we do anyway. So it's very hard for them to really recognize the hard work that goes behind that wall. But again,
that goes to remind me, Gangi, when was the last time when we worked together, you told me, hey, great job you did there? I don't think you ever gave me an attaboy, man.
Hey, weren't we on the same level?
I don't think so, because your administration, I was on the custody side. I didn't get an attaboy, man.
I'm sorry. You know what, Soto? After all these years, attaboy. But you know what? For people that are going into this profession, and that is their reason, you're going to get weeded out real quick, because one, it's barely going to come your way. But I will tell you one thing though, that's on adverse to this, is that there really is something good when you feel it, and that's all that you need. Like, I don't need the outside to recognize that I did good today. It's all about me holding my chest out, my head up, knowing I did good. And I think that when I know it and I feel it, even when the outside disagrees, because that's mostly what's going to happen, it doesn't shift, because internally I know what I did was right. But I mean, do you agree? Recognition for this job, Soto, is very few and far between.
You're right. Very few, far between. You know, no one's going to come and pat you on the back because you did your shift and everything went well and nobody got hurt. And, you know, you clocked in, you clocked out. Nobody's going to come by and say, no, what a great job you did on that tier. What a great job you did. You never messed up. You know, you kept everybody at bay. You did what you were supposed to do. But I think we get that feeling of, you know, I completed something. I did something today. You know, went in, did my job, came out, and everybody was safe. A safe day for us, or a boring day for us, is a good day in corrections.
Yeah, guys, and get ready too. If something negative happens at another facility, get ready to be clumped into that. Because there's so much, I mean, and not just with law enforcement in general, but yes, corrections is part of the law enforcement family. But obviously, when something negative happens, the public is quick to stereotype all of us as, you know, just kind of related towards the negatives. So again, you find yourself constantly defending your position. I mean, that's why I started Tier Talk. I think that's why I have a lot of people that are on with me, because I believe when you let things go unchallenged, people will be just putting stuff up. But then once you go to challenge it, they start to lessen, because they know deep down inside that when you have someone that's uninformed challenges someone who is informed, we'll blow them out of the water any day of the week. That's why we have to welcome those challenges. But for the most part, you're going to find that there's a lot of people that are going to challenge what we do. And even if they're joking, I don't know, it still doesn't matter, because it's still, I've attached myself to this profession. So when you badmouth it, even in a joke, it's kind of like hitting me, you know, and how I feel about myself. So the thing is, I do find myself defending this profession to the point where a friendly discussion could go into like a heated argument, because again, attack on the profession's attack on me. Would you agree that you could find yourself defending this profession a lot once people know that you work in it?
Yeah, you're going to find yourself defending it very, very much so, because, you know, any little thing that happens that may make the news, you know, you're going to get clumped in, right? Hey, look what these guys, or, and another thing, something that's dear to your heart, you know, once we get on the news, it's not a correction officer, it's not a detention officer. They'll say prison guard, right? Prison guard did this, prison guard, and you'll get clumped into that. And it'll be you trying to rectify that statement saying, I'm a correctional officer, I'm a correctional police officer, I'm a detention officer. You know, we're much more than just a security guard. So yeah, you're going to find that happening a lot.
I got one more, Soto, and I don't know if you have any, but the other one is kind of more, it depends on the location. But, you know, when you're new to this profession, you may wind up working with some salty COs, you know, but please, guys, don't use that as a way to generalize how we all are. I mean, sometimes they could be salty for a reason. I mean, again, we're not out to change them, but don't think that you're not welcomed in this profession. It's just corrections. It's tough for us to build trust because of the world we're in and how we see the world. So it really does take a while to, you know, build that trust between you and that salty CO. But I will tell you something. Once you get that trust of that salty CO, it's there for life if you don't burn it. So it's worth the hard effort, because at the end of the day, that salty CO will be the best thing that ever happened to you throughout the course of your career. Were you ever a salty CO?
Listen, I wasn't a salty CO, but I was, and I experienced a salty CO, and I experienced a change as well. I started out, you know, with a large class that came into the institution. So I was brand new. My partner that came to work with us was brand new. And we were both on each floor on a tier, on the east side and on the west side. And you have a senior officer, a salty officer in the control point that controlled all the doors. And he was very, very upset that he had to work with two brand new rookies. And he made it and expresses to me right at the beginning of the shift. He says, oh my God, now you guys are just going to hide here in the bathroom, not be on a tier. I'm going to have to run the unit from here. And, you know, that day I stayed out on the tier for 7.5 hours, and only 7.5 hours out of 8 because I get a half-hour meal break. And I didn't even go anywhere on my meal break. I just used the restroom and went back on the tier. But I gained his respect. I gained his control. You know, I didn't ask him a question. I didn't need to. You know, I was running the unit, even though I didn't know what I was doing. They were gambling right in front of my face. I just told you that story. But, you know, that's how it happens. But I gained his trust. And later on, I became his supervisor, believe it or not. And years later, he actually mentioned the story as we were talking amongst each other in our general assignment area with other officers, saying, you know what? When he first started, I gave him a hard time. And it was basically a great after that because I saw he was willing to do the job, and we became good friends. And he actually taught me a lot.
Yeah, I think sometimes they have that hard shell, but they're always in the distance watching to make sure that you don't mess up too bad. Hey, you know what? One other thing came to my mind, Soto, before we get your thoughts. I know the agency or corrections is constantly changing, or I'd rather use the word evolving, because obviously we're learning from our successes and our failures. And sometimes you may feel that the world's a bit inconsistent. And I get that because obviously there's a lot of changes. But I would say one thing, we need to be a part of that. So if you get a chance, instead of being someone that whispers about change and really never stepping up and doing anything, see where you can be effective. See, okay, well, I know you've done this. Maybe I can help out and make it better. Because there's a lot of people right now that are dealing with this evolution. And instead of moving forward, what they're doing is just complaining about it, but being left behind. Don't do that. Be a forward thinker. Think about what you can add and move forward with the times. Because in the end, sad thing is those that complain and are resistant to where we're going truly do get left behind. And, you know, they're not creating any value for this profession by just whispering and complaining in the dark when they could be investing in good constructive dialogue in an effort to compromise and move forward. But would you agree the changes right now, you know, we're going through a lot right now, right? Evolving.
Yeah, change is hard on everyone. You know, nobody likes change, even if it's effective change. So I like your word in saying that we are evolving. We're going to be forever evolving as things come up, as incidents happen that, you know, put us in the public eye. But as a final thought, I want to make sure that everyone understands that, yeah, there are some drawbacks to this profession, but this profession has gotten me, you know, everything that I ever wanted in life, you know, helped me get more educated, helped me feel a sense of accomplishment by helping others. And, you know, everything in life that I have attained is because of being in this correctional profession. And I still get, look, I get to be on Tier Talk. This wouldn't have happened unless I would have been a professional and actually gotten to know very good people like Anthony Gangi and others that come on this show. And we're all proud. So please be safe, stay professional, and just join our ranks. We need you. We want you.
Obviously, you know, Soto, the feeling's mutual both ways. I mean, you've added so much value to what we do here. And also that respect, because you were on the front line, you were an officer. So as you move up, I mean, you're a success story for so many who are going through it now or want to go through it. And the key here, guys, is just an ending. There's a lot more that we can add. I mean, obviously, the list can go on forever. I mean, we do have generalized animosities and just, you know, us versus them sometimes, you know, dealing with the inmates' disrespect, dealing with inmates in general. But certain things should be expected when you come into this profession. And then there's certain things that kind of hit you by surprise. I think that what we discussed today, I mean, yeah, there's a level of expectation, but there's also certain things that, you know, we're trying to let you know, hey, don't be surprised by this. Especially for me, you're going to constantly be defending the profession, even when you're not at work. That happens to me all the time. So that to me was a bit of a surprise. So I'm glad we were able to give that knowledge. Now, guys, if you haven't, the show Tier Talks for you, brave men and women that work in correction. So please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. Bell's going to notify you every time I post a video. Stay safe.